Thank you, and congratulations. You know, one of the things that amazes me most about the New Testament, the Gospels in particular, is the number of times that our Lord Jesus asked questions himself. Think about that. He was omniscient. He had all knowledge, and yet he was always asking questions, always probing, whether he was one-on-one in a small group, in a larger crowd. In fact, recorded in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are 150 questions that escape the lips of our Lord. One of those questions is the question of your time as you go from this place into this world around us. It's the question he asked in Matthew 16:15 when he asked this question. In a world of pluralism that infiltrates our culture, who do you say that I am? As you go out to be leaders, remember that often leaders are characterized by certain punctuation marks. Some people think to be a great leader, you ought to be characterized by the period, the command, the mandate. Go here, go there, do this, do that. Others say, no, it's characterized by the exclamation point, enthusiasm and optimism and expectancy. But more often than not, true leaders are characterized by that symbol, when you think about it, that's bent in humility. And we call it the question mark. It's okay to ask questions. You know, there are only two kinds of leaders. And as you go from this place to lead, you will lead in one of these two ways. There are those who lead by public consensus. Now, those are folks who lead, but they don't lead until they get all their polling data in. And they see what the consensus is of what the people want, and they get their finger in the air and they sense it, and then they lead that way. This is political season. We just see a lot more of it in that time of year. But there are also those who lead by personal conviction. Down deep in the core of their being, like this man on the stage today, they have some personal convictions about what is right and what is wrong. And they don't lead by public consensus. They lead by personal conviction. You see, if you go out to lead by public consensus, you'll lead people to do what those people want to do. If you lead by personal conviction, you'll lead by people to do what they need to do according to what you've been taught here in this place. Jesus knew how prone those disciples were going to be and how prone you were going to be when you leave this place to go out into the world and into the culture, to leave your personal convictions for the acceptance out there of public consensus. And so what did he do in Matthew 16? He took the disciples away from the Galilean crowds, marched them 25 miles to the north, all the way up to Caesarea Philippi, and around the fire that night, in Matthew 16, he asked them two questions. First, he asked in verse 13, who do people say, who do men say that I am? You see, that's the question of public consensus. And you're going out into a world where what men say is far more important than what God says to them. That's why you pick up the newspaper and it always has an opinion section. I've always wondered why it doesn't have a conviction section, where somebody like President Falwell could write a conviction section. It's because what men say is more important than what God says out there. But then he asked him the question in verse 15, who do you say that I am? You see, that's the question of personal conviction. What about you? Who do you say that I am? Jesus said in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father unless he comes through me. Personal conviction. When we say that and when we exclaim the exclusivity of Christ, we're called narrow-minded. Some folks think that people from places like you and I are so narrow-minded that a gnat could stand on the bridge of our eyes and peck out on a nose and peck out of both eyes at the same time. But as you go, I want you to remember something. That is the nature of truth. All truth is narrow. Some of you are mathematics majors and graduates. Mathematical truth is narrow. 2 plus 2 equals 4. It doesn't equal 5. It doesn't equal 3. In first grade, when that teacher would take that big red pencil, make an X over my paper when I put 5, that used to tick me off. I was so close. Couldn't she cut a little slack? But she couldn't, because mathematical truth is narrow. Some of you are science majors on your way to med school. Scientific truth is narrow. Water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, not 34, not 35. How narrow is that? Historical truth is narrow, you history graduates. John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln in the Ford Theater in Washington. He didn't stab him in the back in the Bowery in Lower Manhattan. Geographical truth is narrow. Why should we be surprised then that theological truth is narrow? Jesus said what? Enter in by the narrow way. Because straight is the way and narrow is the gate that leads to life, and few there be that find it. You have a question for our time as I close. It's this question: who do you say that I am? Some of your parents here today, so proud of that young man, that young woman. The greatest graduation gift you could give that child is to join Simon Peter there at Caesarea Philippi in making that great confession. Who do you say that I am? And Peter quickly said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. The greatest graduation gift you could give your child is to open your heart and your life to Jesus Christ today by personal faith in Him. God bless you as you go your way to answer to this world the question of your time: who do you say that I am?